Whoa, is that magic? Yeah, this guy is definitely evil. Bryce Fairchild is the cult leader of the Palekana and also the final boss that stands before Ichiban. We know that there are a lot of mixed comments regarding his final boss fight. A lot of people are either disappointed with his fight or felt that Bryce and Ichiban's ending was anticlimactic. But looking deeper on Bryce as the charismatic leader of the Palekana, I realize how powerful he is. Bryce Fairchild is more powerful than you think, and here's why. But speaking of power, don't you just hate it when your PC or laptop ain't just powerful enough to play the latest games? Well, luckily today's sponsor has the answer for that. Introducing Boosteroid, a cloud gaming platform. With Boosteroid, you can dive into any free-to-play games hassle-free. And for those coveted paid games, well, simply make sure that you have a licensed copy from trusted digital stores like Steam, Epic, or Origin. But do remember that your gaming journey with Boosteroid relies on your connection and device. Before you subscribe, be sure to check your compatibility with Boosteroid's speed tests. So what are you waiting for? Join the Boosteroid community today. Click the link down in the description and your updated computer will no longer be a problem. So one of the questions the fans of the Like a Dragon series have for the Overseer is that, does Bryce actually have supernatural powers? Considering that this guy is 90 years old and he's more fit than the average 30-year-old suffering from back pains, he was also able to hold his own against the Ichigan. So are there any supernatural elements behind Bryce as an energetic senior citizen? Well, no. Bryce, despite his old age, has been living his life in the same way as he did for the last 70 years as the cult leader of Palekana. He was a mafia who specialized in assassinating people. Then after claiming the throne as the overseer of the Palekana, his ruthless activities did not end there. Bryce is someone with an active lifestyle and he kept that going for more than 7 decades. That is the most simple explanation behind his strength as a zesty grandpa. But this longevity is what made him a mythical icon for the Palekana, which we will talk about later since there's another supernatural event that happened in Infinite Wealth where Bryce controlled his own fate by making a gun break. And then we see this dude get blinded because his gun malfunctioned. So how exactly did Bryce pull that off? Well, it's a setup. Bryce planted a malfunctioning gun for this dude to use, and if you're going to ask why this dude is willing to shoot a broken gun that damages his eye in the process, remember that there are cult members willing to jump off a building to prove their faith in Bryce. Aside from that, a lot of cult members and even faith healers use this tactic. They plant people among the crowd, faking illnesses, falsely claiming that they can't walk or they are blind. And then one voodoo touch from the so-called chosen ones, and then they are healed. This is how Infinite Wealth presented Bryce, a charismatic leader who has manipulated his followers to do his every bidding, showcasing Bryce as this omnipotent prophet. Especially in this scene where Ichiban was about to punch Bryce, it seems that Ichiban stopped in midair. But then the camera zooms out and we see Bryce's followers holding Ichiban. In essence, Bryce's supernatural powers are nothing but smoke and mirrors. But wouldn't it be more fun if we see that aspect more in his boss fight? If you agree with that, then please like this video if you think Bryce should have more depth in his boss battle. And join Otaku Define for more Like a Dragon content. Now, why is Bryce being presented as the supernatural being? Simply because that is how most cults work. If Bryce wasn't able to condition his followers to think of him as this all-powerful prophet chosen by Nele, their goddess, then they would have not been worshipping him in the first place. So, alright, Bryce is obviously a fake. But how does this make him more powerful than we think? It's because Bryce is a textbook cult leader who was able to make his cult so powerful that it lasted for more than 7 decades without even anyone racing against it. A lot of cults in the world have their various oppositions. They may be former members who woke up from the mind conditioning or former high-ranking officials of the said cult who failed to get the highest seat on the said organization. That's why we often see a lot of infighting in these cults, especially once their original leader passes away. But in the case of Palekana, Bryce Fairchild had been the overseer for the last 70 years. He established himself as the one whom they should revere. And Bryce did this by masterfully acting in a similar fashion as real-life cults. Cults, though often portrayed in extreme ways, can be surprisingly subtle in their methods. Cults prey on individuals facing personal struggles, seeking community, or yearning for a sense of purpose. Bryce, in the same manner, is targeting vulnerable people who are orphans. Throughout the story of Infinite Wealth, we see how the Palekana manages an orphanage, and in this establishment, members teach these orphans all about Palekana and how wonderful Bryce is. Not only are orphans vulnerable, but their minds are young and are easy to manipulate. Thus, Bryce literally groomed these kids to be his faithful followers. Cults also use love bombing and idealization, putting them closely with the caretakers to create a strong emotional bond with existing members. This is what we call love bombing. It makes the cult members feel indebted towards the organization. Of course, there's the use of idealization. Cults tend to condition its members into thinking that they are better than the rest of the people who are outside of their fold. This is done by making sure they participate in quote-unquote divine activities like fasting, studying, and other activities only found inside the cult. The Palekana also have their own unique thing, which is to only eat food that is made with local ingredients. They also make sure that the members have a fire lit in their vicinity. After that, Bryce then made sure to idealize himself as the charismatic leader of the Palekana, being depicted as someone who has power over time given his energetic old age and various miracles that he had performed. But the most powerful tool that Bryce uses is to idealize a promise, wherein each member is willing to sacrifice everything to attain. And he did that by presenting a physical promised land, which a lot of real-life cults do, such as the Jonestown by the People's Temple. So the followers being sent there get tricked into thinking that they are fulfilling their ultimate purpose in life. Anyone who fulfills Bryce's conditions are deemed as a Haku that will be sent on the Promised Island, where they will never leave, not go hungry, and will be fulfilled all the time. And this island is the very place where the boss fight took place. Nele Island is Bryce's most powerful card, as he also uses this to further his conditioning to the members of the cult, with isolation and control. Cults control the information members receive, limiting access to outside media and perspectives. This keeps them dependent on the group for knowledge and reinforces the leader's authority. Since these kids are now isolated in Nele Islands and cut off from any outside interference, they will see everything that the Palekana and especially Bryce says as the absolute truth. Encouraging dependency, daily routines, living arrangements, and even finances may be controlled, fostering dependence on the group and making it difficult to leave. We can even see this happen when the truth was revealed as to why Akane ran away from the cult. Other members saw it as a heretical act, and that they will never leave the Palekana since this is the only way of life that they have known. Oh, and if you think you belong to some organizations that treats their members like this, maybe it's time for some self-reflection. Be careful out there. Moving on, Nele Island might be Bryce's most powerful weapon, but his ability to exploit and abuse his followers are what I see as his most dangerous side. His subjects are willing to sacrifice anything, such as putting a show of the gun malfunctioning, leaving this guy blinded. His servants are willing to throw away their newfound family, such as Tommy's friend who betrayed them. Bryce's charisma is so strong that his followers are willing to die for him. Usually, that of a fellow cult member can trigger a red flag inside the organization, but Bryce was able to condition his followers so effectively that they brush it off, even if Bryce kills someone right before their eyes. It is this powerful conditioning and abuse that makes Bryce one of the most dangerous villains in the Like a Dragon series. But then, why did his story ended up like that? After Chitose revealed the truth about the nuclear waste management plan, the Nele Island, the Palekana, and him as the false prophet, Bryce tried jumping to the nuclear waste. Bryce knew that once the public got involved with how the Palekana functions and how it abuses its followers, that he will then soon face justice, and he will see the decades of brainwashing has done gets destroyed and his cult gets defunct. This is actually similar from real-life cults and how they disbanded. such as Heaven's Gate, who believe in extraterrestrial salvation, but in 1997, 39 members were collectively lost in order to reach an alien spacecraft they believe was following a comet. Then we also have Aum Shinrikyo, founded in Japan in the 1980s. This cult blended elements of Buddhism, Christianity, and Hinduism with apocalyptic teachings. They gained infamy in 1995 when they carried out a sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway, killing 13 people and injuring thousands. The cult was then dismantled by the Japanese authorities and its leader Shoko Asahara, who was executed in 2018. This cult disbanded mainly due to a combination of internal strife, external pressure from law enforcement or media scrutiny, and the demise of their leaders. The extreme beliefs and actions of these groups often led to tragic outcomes, prompting interventions from authorities and ultimately resulting in their dissolution. And these are the things that Bryce feared the most of, and why he kept on searching for Lani, the rightful leader of the Palekana. Bryce wanted to prevent any internal strife, where followers will question his place as the rightful leader. Bryce did not want any external pressure from the law, but seeing as how much of an international disaster the nuclear waste disposal is, Bryce knew that various government organizations will investigate his cult, and this is now outside of his sphere of influence. Bryce knows that his demise has come, and the 7 decades that he has spent in building his black box will not only be remembered as another tragic case of abusing vulnerable people. To be honest, RGG Studio could have presented Bryce more as this intimidating figure, given how dangerous he is and his powerful grip in Hawaii. Unfortunately, the path did not end that way, and we see Bryce go down as one of the more disappointing bosses in the Like a Dragon series. A somewhat anticlimactic ending, which is why I think AG should have been the final boss for Ichiban. If you're curious why, then check this video out. Like and subscribe to Otaku Define for more Like a Dragon content. This is Math, and stay away from cults, my dudes.